Okay, welcome everybody to Rig It with Coach. Glad to be here today. I know we missed the last couple of weeks. I got Jordan with me. We'd like to apologize for not being on air. We had some sickness and things like that and messed us up, and we weren't able to go on. So now hopefully we're back, Jordan online. We can go every week from this point on without any hiccups or bleeps anyway.
Yep.
So what we thought we'd do today, right, let me sit up here and talk about advertising those shirts or tackle packs or that type of thing. We decided we'd do another question and answer session like we did several weeks back that was pretty successful, and just talk about a few things that happens to pop up and just have a general discussion for them. So if you got a question, get it in while we're on live, and we'll try our best to get to all of them. Obviously we won't get to all of them, but we'll try, and we'll just talk about some different things. So Jordan, it's up to you to get us started today. We're going to let you roll. I'm not going to do any advertisements, so go ahead.
All right, let's start with this one from Sportsman Mania.
Okay.
He's wondering, if you could only have 3 colors, what would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. I can answer that pretty quick, though. I think I would take green pumpkin, Texas red, tilapia, and hematoma.
All right,
that would cover the whole gambit. That'd give you a muddy water bait. That'd give you a clear water bait. That'd give you just a bait that's kind of a new color that's been pretty successful here lately. That green pumpkin Texas red is what I'm talking about. That's a real good new color. Seemed to have caught on here in the last year. A lot of people are really interested in that color. So that's the 3 things I think I would take. If you ask me the 3 I'd have to have, that would be them.
Okay, and then of course, as usual, I have several people wondering, what is your favorite big bite bait of all time?
I like the fighting frog is my all-time favorite, but I think we have some other good baits. I think in the last several years, I've been working with Big Bite 10 years, and I think in the last several years we've really added some neat things to our line that I say the fighting frog's always been my go-to, but now we have some other things like the kamikaze crawl and the kamikaze swim on and the FW8, the big finesse worm. I mean, for years I was just a 10-inch worm guy, a B2, but that FW8's been a big player. So I don't know if I can maybe tack it down, but right now I'm still going to say the fighting frog, but there's some things gaining ground in a hurry.
Okay, good deal. And so you answered this question in that last one, which is from Chase.
Yeah.
He's wondering how long we've been in business. So
Big Bite's been in business, I think it's 12 years. We just had our 12th anniversary. So we celebrated a couple years back our 10th anniversary here at Big Bite Baits. So we're working on 20. So definitely.
Absolutely. Okay. Here's another one. Talk about the biggest fish that you've caught.
I caught 11-pound, 2-ounce largemouth. Actually, I caught it on a lizard, on a tilapia 8-inch lizard, and the creek tail lizard. That's my largest, of course. And then actually the same week I was in Mexico, I caught one over 10 on that same lizard in watermelon red. That seemed to be what they were on at that time. Worked real well. I caught a 10-pounder several years back at a local pond that I caught on a fighting frog. So that's some of the bigger fish I have caught and what I caught them on.
Awesome. Okay, here's one from the Colton Cruz. He's wondering the best time to use a chatterbait.
Well, here on our lake, a chatterbait is usually really good when the water is cool. Say from 48 to 55 degrees, cold weather, early spring. A lot of times the water's stained here, and a lot of people use a chatterbait. I know all the last month everybody was throwing a chatterbait. The chatterbait also becomes back into play for us in the fall when the water begins to cool down. We did have hydrilla in our lake, and it was real good around the hydrilla, obviously. And so that was the 2 times here where we fish at on our home lake that the chatterbait really was a player for us.
Okay, here's something to go with that, talking about the grass being gone. What is the best bait to throw around rocky banks?
I like several different things around rocks, to be honest with you. Obviously, I'm not. I know we're talking about our plastic company, but I like to throw a spinnerbait around rocks a lot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But and if I do, I put like one of our curl tail grubs on the back of it, maybe to give it a trailer. Or we got a new bait coming out here shortly. We're going to prototype. It's a new swim on that's going to be made for a spinnerbait. That's going to be really good. So I kind of let the cat out of the bag right there. Also on those rocky type places, I like to throw a Carolina rig sometimes, or maybe a Texas rig around it, depending.
Okay. Do you know much about Lake Murray, Coach?
I do not. No,
Okay,
I've never been there.
All right, somebody's asking the best Lake Murray bait right now, but how about we answer this one instead?
Okay.
If you could choose one big bite bait for spring, what would be the bait and what color?
That's kind of a toss-up. A fighting frog, probably tilapia, or either a trick stick in green pumpkin to try to catch those bedding style fish. That would be the two, and that's kind of a catch-20 because both of those are really good. So not to dodge your question, I think I'd load my deck with both. Definitely. And the nice thing about that trick stick is you can wacky rig it, or you can fish it, with a really light lead if you like to. I like to fish it with a light lead, but a lot of people like to wacky rig it, And the fighting frog, as we already talked about, you can do a lot of different things with it. But I just love to just pitch it down around beds and that type of thing. The fish bite real well on that, definitely.
Okay, here's another one from Keaton. He's wondering, what is your favorite jig trailer?
Well, for years I used the fighting frog, okay, on my football type jig, but now that kamikaze crawl is really interesting because it's got a little bigger flappers and it makes a little more vibration. I really like it a lot on there too, and it comes in some really good colors. I just have always been a guy on my jigs. I like to put a crawl of some variety, and then of course we make a chunk, the old school type chunk.
Yep.
A lot of guys are still like to do that. I particularly don't. I like to do some type of crawl, so I'm going to use either a fighting frog or a kamikaze crawl, or I might even throw a swimming crawl in the mix. But some type of crawl flapper definitely behind mine. That seems to be what works best for me personally.
Okay. Here's a good question. What are the advantages and disadvantages of fishing a soft plastic weightless?
Well, that's kind of tough to answer. I don't fish a lot weightless. If I do, the advantages are, I guess, is our baits in particular are real buoyant, so they don't just necessarily settle to the bottom. If you're trying to get something that's just floating in that plane, it would work real well. They also tend to be fairly heavy, so they're easy to cast. Like a lot of our baits you can throw without a lid on it, and that makes nice. I'm making an exception of that, like the top toad or the tour toad, which is something I do a lot that's weightless. You can cast that bait really well on a bait caster. It's heavy and it throws, so that's kind of how I would answer that. That's a tough one. I mean, like I said, I don't do a lot of weightless bait fishing.
Okay. Well, here's two questions for you. Well, you've already answered one of them.
All right, good.
Let's see. They're wondering what's your favorite soft plastic and what's your favorite hard plastic bait of all time.
Well, the soft plastic bait is obviously, we've talked about that as fighting frog, but now when you start talking about hard plastic, that's a whole different thing because you're talking about a crankbait or maybe a top water bait, some variety. I'll give you a couple I'll throw at you. I like a 6XD crankbait or either a big fat free shad, and I like a Rico popper. They work really well. That's something that I can share with you that you can try. I'm particularly fond of that Rico and what they call a bolt pattern, which is black, and it works really well, And then, now if it comes down to frog type fishing, I'd rather have a rubber type frog, definitely.
Okay. Let's see. I got another one here. This one's from Austin Sawyer.
Okay, Austin.
What is the best bait to flip in dirty water?
I think there's several variants on that too, because some guys like to flip a small compact bait, and some guys like to flip a bigger bait. I would probably recommend 3 things that you can try of ours. I think will work really good for you flipping. They've got enough meat in the body that you won't have any problems on like a heavy flipping hook, or even if you're punching it. If you want to downsize your profile, I would definitely try the Yo Daddy. It comes in like 13 colors. Okay, it's got a little more meat in the body, and it's designed to do that. If you want a beaver style bait, then I'd recommend the Yo Mama. It works real well the same way. Nice thing about it is it's got the detachable flappers. You can either detach them or you can leave them stuck together, depending on what type of fall you want to get out of that bait. So those are 2. And then throw you another one in there that's kind of catching on. A lot of guys are talking about using the kamikaze crawl. It has a pretty thick body on it as well, and it has really big active appendages on it. So it's going to have a lot more motion probably than those other baits. So that's 3 things I would recommend to try off our catalog that I think will work real well to flip with.
Okay. Let's see. Let's shift gears here a little bit. Fowler is wondering, what should I use to catch fish in the cold Midwest water?
Ooh, and I imagine that water's clear out there too. I think those guys do a lot. I know that if you ask one of our pros that live out in that area, they all gonna tell you, and this isn't what I'm probably supposed to be promoting, but they're gonna say use a jerk bait. And I just think that's probably what you need to do out there in that cold water.
Right.
So go pick you out a branded jerk bait. I'm not gonna recommend anybody's and find the color. I know that what they call Ozark shad, that purple and chartreuse is real popular out there. So definitely, you probably need to be jerk bait fishing. Okay. Definitely.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, what's the best bait to fish with in the summer?
I like in the summer. I generally on my boat have 2 or 3 different things rigged up. I'll have a jig with a trailer on it of some variety, some type of crawl trailer. I have a big worm, either the 10-inch B2 or the 8-inch finesse worm, and then I'll have a deep diving crankbait of some variety. Depending on the clarity of the water and what the fish are doing as far as the colors go, you kind of, I think that kind of has to do with the lake you're in. Some lakes like the fish like different colors in. Kind of play it, by ear on that. Like here, that green pumpkin Texas red's real good. I've got a buddy out in Texas who just loves the bruised melon in that finesse worm. So just to give you an idea, I think that's got a lot to do with the angler and his choice. But that's the 3 things I would definitely never go out in the summer with. And the 4th thing I'd probably have on the deck of my boat, some type of taut water bait to do first thing in the morning before the sun comes up.
Okay. I got one more for you.
Okay.
Let's see. Before I ask another one, I just wanted to shout out, Fouch and who's this other? Ryan Stewart. They just wanted to shout us out.
Okay, good, man. We're glad to have y'all.
Yep, not a question. They just said that they're big fans of our baits.
Well, we appreciate them, and we appreciate you buying our product, and we appreciate you talking to us today for sure.
So last question, and then I'll let you go. What would you recommend for fishing in highly pressured fisheries?
Most anglers that I've talked to downsize when they get into that pressure. They try to give something that's a little more subtle, okay? One of the things I use here is a trick stick. I know that the last couple of years I've been going behind guys that maybe are fishing an area, and I can come behind them with a trick stick and get bites that they might not be getting. The thing about that trick stick is you can work it really slow and subtle, and that seems to work really well. Most of the guys I talk to that are our pros, for example, off our pro staff, they talk about downsizing to a smaller type bait to try to pick up a bite here and there because of the fact that they've been beat with such many big baits. Just trying to give them something that's a little bit different looking. I don't think the color makes a lot of difference on that. I do think that the size of the bait does, and maybe the approach that you use, so to speak.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. We're gonna try to do more shows like this. I think in the future. I mean, we can talk about debates all day long. I mean, it just gets kind of repetitious, doing the same thing over and over. But we'll put together something for y'all next week, and it's been a pleasure being here. We'll talk to y'all next Monday, guys.